I'm Claire, and this is my mate Anna. 10 years ago, Anna and I drove a Ford Fiesta 10,000 kilometres from the UK to West Africa. We'd bought it off eBay for less than £250. We had no service history and almost no mechanical know-how. The West Africa we saw is a different one now, and today's politics would make this trip a challenge to repeat. Our breakdowns were outnumbered only by adventures, and we got way more mileage from our car than we'd ever hoped for. 10 years later, this is our story.
Alright, so... Next up, on the next stage, we have the local band playing in the left.
So basically, what used to be an oil drum like that becomes a cooker like that. And how do they do it?
We just arrived back in Mopti from Timbuktu and were planning our next steps after saying goodbye to Duncan. We were now exploring the back streets where repurposed oil drums were being turned into everyday household items.
Brilliant. Used to be an oil drum. About to become all kinds of interesting things. Ooh, there's some guys.
With Duncan gone, Tom had adopted a desiccated capitan fish to keep him company instead.
What other exciting wares are we making out of oil drums today? Oh, he's making bowls. Those ones are looking a little worse for wear. He's painting it.
We were planning for Mopti to be our last urban adventure in Mali before continuing on to the Dogon Country and heading straight into Burkina Faso from there.
Hey! Oh, what? Oh, and they say USA on them. USA, refined vitamin, not to be sold or exchanged.
We were lapping up this last bit of civilization, as well as Africa's ingenuity at how best to make something from what others might disregard as nothing.
And there's the scraps. Not all parts of the oil drum can be recycled, unfortunately.
We were also experimenting with Mopti's street food scene with mixed results.
What have you got there?
A very sour lemon. It's like borderline lemon orange. Oh, very sour. Very sour.
And what's that there?
It's supposed to be a fish. It's not very good.
It was a good thing the granny was already dangerously overloaded, even with Duncan now gone, lest we find ourselves tempted to invest in a tin drum luggage set.
Oh, look, they're haggling over. Oh, you can cook eggs in it over the fire. These people are geniuses.
Once done in the market, it was off for sunset by the Niger River.
Hello, Claire.
We are currently
The light here is not really...
called the riverfront. The locals like to carry things in baskets on their heads.
I'd clearly decided that putting on the Attenborough was the best way to demonstrate the undeniably in-depth understanding of Mopti we'd gained as a bunch of white foreigners after just 2 more days there.
It's really pretty. The camera is filming it more white. I'll say the world has turned orange on us. But
The local people are currently paddling across the river to their dwellings where they should take tea under the cloud of a low fog.
Ça va, madame? Ça va bien?
Tout le plaisir, hein? So jolis.
stop making friends.
From Mopti, we were heading on to the Dogon Country, which was considered remote for Mali, with its small villages connected only by sandy tracks, where the Dogon people lived off-grid.
Crossing the river. Over there, there's fire. That's the boat we would have taken to Timbuktu if the water level was higher. Would have been amazing. But Kaka was pretty cool too.
We'd been on the lookout for someone from Dogon who could guide us through the area for a few days. We'd met a guy called OK who was from the Dogon Country and had agreed to take us out there. He'd drive ahead of us on his scooter the next day while we followed in the granny to explore the villages and do a few hikes. After one more night in Mopti, we were all packed up and ready to go.
Tom, what just happened there?
Where?
What's this? Is this a surfboard?
I nearly lost my surfboard.
Of course, there was always time for an impromptu dance-off in the middle of the road before heading on to the next destination, even though our travel plans for the day were about to hit a snag.
So, this is Mopti, so we've been saying. But we're now leaving.
Okay, time to move.
Time to move! Dude on moped forgot his bag, so he'll be back soon. Something going on down by the river. It's all the fishing boats, women.
We'd had to pull over just around the corner from the hotel after our guide accidentally left his bag behind. Sadly, that wasn't the only issue we were having.
I think it's most... So Claire, what do you reckon? How's the granny today?
There's no brakes at all.
There's no brakes whatsoever. Nothing happens when you press...
Nothing happens when I hit the brakes, and that's going 20k an hour, so the highway should be fun. Gonna check the brake fluid, see if there is any.
Interesting.
TIA, indeed.
If we didn't fix the brakes now, we'd have to drive the next 500 kilometres with only gear changes to brake with and hope to repair them in Burkina Faso.
Interesting to say the least.
So we bought some brake fluid, topped it up, and still no brakes. While this didn't seem ideal, cancelling our plans seemed even less ideal, so we decided to hit the road anyway. Amazingly, it would not be the brakes that would slow us down next.
As that man, his bike's broke down, so he's walking.
As we approached the Dogon Country, our guide OK's scooter picked up a puncture.
Bonsoir!
We'd been limping along behind OK for quite some time now, while he walked his scooter on ahead, looking for a village where we might be able to wait while he repaired the tyre.
They grow leeks here. It smells like leek. We're officially in Dogon Country. Oh, it's a flat tyre. We got a flat tyre too.
It wasn't really the worst that we were having to go slow, since we feared driving any faster than first gear in case the car couldn't be stopped again. It was also working in our favour that we were slowly climbing uphill as far as the brakes go. But what goes up must also eventually come down, right?
Mother uckers, look at that. Jesus Christ, always present.
That's insane.
With Muhammad and Allah.
After finding West Africa to be predominantly Muslim so far, it was a bit of a shock to see Jesus in the middle of the Dogon Country. The villages in Dogon run along the length of the Bandiagara Escarpment, which originally provided a refuge for the Telem people against raiders, wildlife, and hostile neighbours in the 11th century. The strategically defensive position of the cliffs also allowed animist beliefs to persist here, centuries after Islam had become the dominant religion in the rest of the region. In the early 19th century, Islam was introduced alongside the Dogon's tolerant animist beliefs, followed 50 years later by Christianity as the French administration took hold in West Africa.
That's where they keep stuff in those houses. They don't live in them, they just keep stuff in them.
We were about to hit the top of the escarpment, where we would start to get our first proper feel of the landscape we'd just driven into. After fixing OK's tyre in one of the villages, we found ourselves some lunch, as well as some views, so we could start to take in the sandstone escarpment. It was also time to figure out how we'd get Granny downhill despite not having brakes.
This is very nice. It's a bit of a hill. Our brakes, not working really. They're alright, we'll be fine. I'm driving in first. What up?
Takes the car down a hill with no brakes.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, to say the least.
I'd been driving in first and barely easing off the clutch to slow the downhill momentum.
We're going to the next village. Spent quite some time on eating salad. Been eating salad today, Claire.
Oh yeah, I'm
Pretty.
pulling it out of my teeth.
We'd been living on baguettes, so to find leafy things growing in Dogon thanks to the escarpment's natural springs was pretty exciting.
But it was good.
It's cute. Almost 6% brakes.
But enough procrastinating, the downhill awaits.
So, no brakes.
Surfing down the hill.
No,
because we have no brakes.
No brakes. This is
Oncoming
my
traffic.
foot. My foot
And-
is fully on the brake.
Here we go.
Looks like a massive
That's
cliff.
a bit of a hazard. But the ladies over there looks like they're having a lot of fun.
This is Dogon Country.
This is Dogon Country. Ah, but look, there's a bit of a platform there, so no worries.
This is good. So oncoming traffic.
TIA.
There we go.
Now that we'd avoided any collisions, it was time to start exploring the villages.
Dunks, you're missing out. Here's your guinea fowl. And they're crossing.
While it's said that large mammals like elephants, giraffes and zebra were once abundant in the Dogon Country, domestic cattle and guinea fowl were the most exotic sightings we could expect during our visit.
Got a pretty cool house.
Got in the village. Don't want to film the people, but oh, some footy. Nice. There was a woman by the pump over there. That was really cool. But I don't want to film it. But here they do herbs. Massive. See it
more
everywhere.
sand driving. There we go.
We're back to sand driving. Yeah. It's like we're surfing properly because now we've got a
this is
surfboard
alright,
and our
actually. This
windscreen. Before we were surfing imaginary.
In reality, the sand was helpful for slowing down without brakes, though our inability to anticipate and avoid holes in the road did make parts of the drive bumpier than others.
Rally driving! And the music! I know how the city felt!
That'll be the same city that helped us navigate across the Sahara.
No, you don't. City was in the front.
But the reasons we'd come and our first overnight in Dogon were both coming into focus.
Look at that!
We were pulling into a Dogon village overlooked by the Bandiagara Escarpment, where first the Telem people and later the Dogon had built houses and granaries into the cliffs. We strolled past the local mud brick mosque and headed off to climb the cliff face for sunset. From up above, we could see everything going on in the village below, as well as the rooftops that we would be sleeping out on for the night. Wandering around as the sun went down, we found small clues on the mud buildings which hinted at the animist beliefs of the Dogon. A sleep out under the stars also meant a sleep out next to the mosque's loudspeaker, so we were back up the cliffs for sunrise, being woken by the dawn call to prayer. It was then time to hit the road after a quick game of football in the village.
It's a really cool place. I've been up there today. It's amazing. It's the most beautiful place. Went up there this morning too.
Now that we'd be ping-ponging our way through villages for the day, the biggest trick would be not to run over any pedestrians or cattle that we wouldn't be able to stop for.
Hey.
No worries, big sister.
We were about to wind our way through a grove of baobabs whose bark had been stripped by the Dogon to weave rope.
They're really cool baobabs. Look at trunks.
Sorry, matey.
Good trunk.
Some good trunk.
Granny is cruising. Some really good trunks. Hello, Baba.
Everywhere.
We almost hit some goats, and more so we hit very close to hit a cart with a donkey because we can't brake, and it was a sandy patch. So
There was trees on either side.
There was trees on either side.
That I couldn't drive into.
We had to drive up on the edge and apologise deeply to the poor man and his donkey and his cart and his wife on it. He was happy to accept the apologies though, because we're okay. I want to have all of them.
Whether he realises we don't have a scooter.
And small pygmy houses. And the funny thing, this used to be lush forest back in the day, so that's where they lived, and they climbed up in trees to get there. That's the story. We're on our way to OK's village, where he's from.
Look at that gate.
That is a bit of a gate, isn't it?
And look at that perfect road for a two-wheel drive without brakes.
Pretty much how exciting the road gets.
Look at that rock formation over there. Can't really see. It's cool.
Climbing out of all the holes without scraping the chassis was almost entirely out of the question.
Come on, Claire. Come on, Granny. Come on, Claire and Granny. Oh, nice scraping sound.
Damn.
That's the rock formation.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty damn cool.
We were on our way to a village where we'd leave the car and hike to the top of the escarpment.
Back in sand, but everything is fine. Everything is good. Henry is back on the dashboard. And we was just then, like I should have filmed that really, we were almost ran over a little goat.
It was pretty scruffy.
It was pretty scruffy. It was quite small, but it got out in the end.
We also definitely weren't yet done causing complete and utter chaos on the sandy tracks of the Dogon Country for the day.
We use our horns frequently today.
Thankfully, the tracks were about to be safe from us, for we were about to reach the starting point for our hike above the escarpment.
Well, it's quite an impressive mosque. Hey, I believe this is his village. This is Dogon Country, day 2. Stay tuned.
Day 2 in Darger.
Parked up under a tree.
Yeah. Dude's hanging the gun in the tree.
As we parked in the shade, we noticed a bunch of guns hanging in the branches, presumably to keep them out of reach of children and goats. From here, it was a steep climb upwards to a small plateau being used for agriculture.
That is onion, and there's tomatoes as well. Where? I don't know, Tom said there was tomatoes somewhere, he saw some. There's water. We climbed quite steep. It's very warm. That's a cool rock formation. Lettuce! This is fresh lettuce and leeks. And that's the tomatoes. Tomato. This is salad heaven. And dude is wearing a Santa hat. What more can you wish for?
If only Bob Geldof could see them now. After a hot slog in the heat from the fields, we reached a village at the top of the cliffs where we'd wait out the worst heat of the afternoon. It was exactly at this point that Anna revealed she was having a bit of a rough day.
Tell me, Anna.
What's in your pants?
Prickles.
What kind of prickles?
They're like a massive kiwi fruit. They grow on trees and it looks really smooth, like velour.
Did you touch it?
I did. I
Did
put
you
it,
touch
I put
the
it
fruit?
in my lap. Can't get them off. I washed it, I've scratched it, I've itched it. Nothing helps.
Look at those cliffs. Did you walk up this whole mountainside with those prickles in your pants, did you, Anna?
I did.
And then you got to the top, and then you discovered what? What had you forgotten?
No bug roll.
What's that? No toilet paper?
No TP.
And how far did we walk up this hill?
No TP. Oh, I can't do it. TP.
You're a disaster.
I am a disaster.
Oh, I have an idea, actually. You know what would
Yeah.
make you feel better?
No.
Have a cold drink. What, what's wrong with that suggestion? Why can't you have a cold drink, Anna?
No money.
What's that?
Money's a
You,
fiesta.
you climbed to the top of the mountain with prickles in your pants and you left your wallet at the bottom of the mountain.
Did. It's a good day.
Tom's just chilling.
Just chilling on top of it.
After a sweaty, prickly siesta with nothing but lukewarm water to drink, we were off to check out more of the village.
What's going on?
What's going on? We've come to a hunter's house and they've got these guns.
There we go.
They are really old. Check it out. It's like a flintlock. This is like 1800s or something.
Flintlock.
What happens is there's a hole in there
Yeah.
and you put down the barrel, you put a ball of wadding wrapped in a musket ball, you poke it down and you use
With
this
a stick.
ramrod to poke it down.
Oh my god, it's totally old school.
And then you pour a bit more powder down, and here you put, with a horn, you put a little bit of powder in that hole, comes out on this trail, cock the flint back, and you pull the trigger, there's a big long delay, then it goes, and then that strikes this, which makes a spark, lights that powder, goes in the hole, fills up the powder you poured in, pumps the ball out the end. So it'd be something like this, there's the animal on a shoot, click, boom! And it's probably wildly inaccurate, and the range is probably not very good, but they're pretty cool. I'd love to have a go at firing.
Told me in
And
a
this
bit
is my
of
favourite.
gun nirvana.
This is, yeah, I am. This one's
Tell us
a
about
big
the other
one.
ones.
They're
the same
all
deal?
the same, basically, but
Just different
yeah,
sizes.
he's probably got his favourites. It's like, this one's my monkey gun. Boom! For taking monkeys out of trees.
That would be a baboon's ass right there.
And what's that behind
Bit
you
of a
there,
head.
Anna?
This one's
Behind
definitely
me,
rabbit
I don't really want to film him. But I'll do it quickly.
Yeah, I think he noticed. He's
Did
looking
he?
pretty pissed.
Oh,
He's
no.
actually got his hand out now asking for a cadeau.
Damn it.
The monkey
Damn
figured
it.
it out.
From the hunter's house, we were off to hang out on the edge of the escarpment.
Pretty sweet view. Look at that. How's it, Tom?
It's good!
How's it? Ah, baby.
I think it is good as well.
As well.
As well.
From up here, it was easy to see how the vantage point of the cliffs had helped the Pygmies and later the Dogon evade their enemies. This strategic location had allowed both groups to anticipate raids and avoid capture for the slave market or assimilation into Islam or Christianity until the 19th century. Sadly, the Dogon's luck seems not to have lasted, and the area is now considered too dangerous to visit as a result of ongoing warfare. To add salt to the wound, increasing droughts now also impact the Dogon's ability to practice agriculture here, forcing many to leave the area. It was also just about time for us to head on from Dogon ourselves, and we planned one more night of sleeping out on the rooftops before we'd head on to Burkina Faso the next day.
We are now heading to our guide's village, which I can't remember the name of already, but it's not very far away.
Bit of a...
Granny loves it.
Granny loves Africa. Granny loves driving in Africa.
This is a cool place.
And right on cue, we had some quintessential South African tunes from the one and only Johnny Clegg to provide all the atmosphere on our last afternoon in Dogon.
I love the soundtrack right now.
Seems it wasn't just Johnny Clegg making our last night in Dogon as festive as possible.
Let's
We plan to head straight to Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, to fix the brakes the next day and travel on from there. This was our last chance to lap up a night under the stars in a place with no electric light to block the view. So after one last sunset and one last climb up the cliffs, we found ourselves heading south on the road out of Mali.
Then you thought the off-roading had ended.
So where are we, Claire, and where are we going?
We're going to the border of Burkina Faso with no brakes and a road with lots of holes in it. No warning about anything with me at the wheel, which is probably the worst choice of all, right?
That's probably the best. Some of these holes in the swimming pools.
Little did we know this whole drive was completely in vain.
I don't know, sort the tunes on.
For we would soon be stamped out of Mali, but Burkina Bay Customs would refuse to let us into their country, and you'll find us stuck in no man's land next episode.
Hi, present day Claire here. New episodes will be uploaded every Sunday, so hit subscribe if you'd like to be notified when it's time to watch. Thanks and see you next time.